that's me. Neighborhood, that's Nick. Neighborhood, do the dance. Neighborhood, do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way.
Hey everybody, I'm Kehr, and right now I'm standing in my $20,000 4-unit mixed-use building. I bought this building back in November 2019, and I have fully renovated it. So there are 2 residential apartments upstairs and 2 commercial units downstairs. Right now, you're standing in the liquor store that I opened. We started the process right when we purchased the building, and we just received our liquor license in September 2020. So we've been fully operating and having a great time learning everything there is to know about owning and operating a wine and liquor store. But back to the fun part, let's talk about the numbers on this deal. So about 3 years ago, I had bought a majority of this investor's portfolio. He was retiring, he didn't want to deal with the properties, a lot of maintenance was coming up on them. So I bought a large portion of them, and there was still this building left and a couple other properties. At the time, he wanted $90,000 for this building. It's in a small town, there's other vacant buildings on the street, and I could just not see myself spending $90,000 on it. So a couple years later, the son approached me and said, my dad really has to get rid of this building. Would you take it for $60,000, and we'll throw in another duplex we need to get rid of? Well, the duplex had a 2-bedroom unit upstairs that was in great shape, and then in the downstairs was an old commercial unit, and it was in a residential area, and I just wasn't sure what I'd do with the duplex. It needed a new roof, other repairs, and then this one needed to be completely gutted in 2 of the units. So what we did was we put in an offer of $40,000, countered at that, and they accepted. Then I went out and I knew that I needed to get rid of this duplex. I couldn't take on 2 of these projects at once. So I found someone who wanted to purchase it, and it was actually just by talking to one of my maintenance guys. He said, I have someone who would be interested in buying it. So I sold it to him for $20,000. All I did was I actually wholesaled it. So I assigned the contract to him. So he actually came to the table with the $20,000 and ended up being the buyer on that property. So I never had to put up any money to buy that duplex, or I never even had to close on it. That meant that I had this property for $20,000 out of pocket. I was super excited. When we ran the numbers on this property, we thought that the renovations would be around $70,000 to $90,000. We weren't sure exactly what we would get into. We hadn't done a major renovation like this before, and there also weren't a lot of comps in the area. Actually, none in this whole town. So what we did was we made sure that our ARV was high enough that even if we spent the $90,000, the top of our budget, that we would still make out. We could also afford to keep money into this property. We were using a line of credit to purchase and rehab, and then we also put a lot of our own cash into it. The ARV we expected was $120,000, maybe $130,000. So we started renovations in December of 2019, and we finished in June, July-ish of 2020. We rented out the upstairs apartment that was completely gutted, brand new, for $590 a month. And then we had an existing tenant in 1 unit that wanted to stay. So we just did what needed to be done in there, plumbing updates, electric updates. And then the other commercial unit on the 1st floor, we rented that out for $700 a month. Then the liquor store we were planning on putting in here, which pays $1,000 a month in rent. After all said and done, we had everything rented in July. We waited until October, where we actually got our appraisal back, and we found out that the property actually appraised for $220,000. I had to scroll up to the top of the appraisal to make sure they sent us the appraisal on the correct property. I was shocked about it. This whole thing has turned out really great, and it's been my best deal yet. But there was also lots of learning experiences. See this floor I'm standing on? I am officially a pro at installing vinyl plank flooring. Painting, I have every type of paint sprayer you can imagine now, just from trying different things. So it definitely was a great learning experience, and this was really made possible from taking on a partner too. So I put up a lot of the cash for this property, but I had never done a full gut rehab. but I wanted to try it. I also had never run a retail business before, and I really wanted to try it. So what I did was I reached out to one of my existing partners who has construction experience, has done rehabs of his own, and also runs and manages a couple franchise restaurants. So he has systems in place where he's a pretty hands-off owner. He has a supervisor that oversees everything and then managers for the store. And I wanted access to that. I wanted access to those people and learn how to make my retail store hands-off too. And then he taught me all winter long. We spent all winter, all COVID, we spent every day in here almost working on this project. So we did pretty much everything except for some of the HVAC and the plumbing. And then we had an electrician in here. But all the cosmetic stuff and really just like, we even had to take out a lot of the subfloor upstairs. We did all that, fixing some of the framing that wasn't exactly right. So we definitely learned a lot through this experience. And I think that it also made our partnership stronger because we survived a whole rehab together and also opening a retail store. So if you guys want to try something new and you have some experience in that strategy, but you are not confident enough to take it on your own, bring on a partner. What I did was I gave him 40% ownership in the building and then 40% ownership in the liquor store. And then he also helped with some of the costs. And then once we refinanced, we were both paid back for those costs. But he definitely put in a lot more labor into this just because he had the experience and I was more of a measurer and cutter while he did a lot of things. Let's do a breakdown real quick of the numbers. So we purchased the building for $20,000. We used a line of credit that I had on a different investment property to pay for this. So some of our holding costs were paying 6% interest on that $20,000. Our rehab costs were around $70,000. We used some of our own cash to put into this deal, and then we also used my line of credit too, which we paid 6% on that holding cost. So altogether, we have $90,000 into the building. It appraised at $220,000. And what we actually did was we went and refinanced for $100,000. So all the $90,000 was paid back, and then we had $10,000 extra to put into the liquor store as a startup cost. So starting the liquor store, we knew that we would need startup funds for this. So my partner and I have a couple other LLCs. And what we did was we saved the cash flow from those rental properties. We didn't spend anything out of them or take any money out. And we used that cash flow to actually start the liquor store as our starting money, our opening balance. And that was how we actually paid cash for all of our inventory. So thank you guys for listening. If you want to hear more about my real estate business or even my retail business, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what investment opportunity are you thinking about doing next.